When I bought my first house, I knew the driveway was one of its biggest selling points. Street parking in our neighborhood was a nightmare, so having two private spaces felt like winning the lottery. My next-door neighbor clearly disagreed. The first time I came home and found his SUV parked in my driveway, I figured it was an honest mistake. I knocked on his door, and he casually said, "I'll move it in a minute." 40 minutes later, it was still there. He finally moved it without apologizing. A week later, he did it again. This time, he laughed and said, "You weren't even home!" That became his favorite excuse. If he saw my driveway empty, he'd use it, sometimes for an hour, sometimes overnight. I asked him politely at least 5 different times to stop. His response never changed. "Relax, it's just concrete." I called the non-emergency police line to ask what my options were. The officer told me something interesting. If it's private property and properly marked, you can have unauthorized vehicles towed. So I checked the local rules, put up a clearly visible private driveway, "Unauthorized vehicles will be towed" sign, and took pictures showing the sign from every angle. 3 days later, his SUV was back. I called a towing company. 20 minutes later, they loaded it onto the truck. I watched from my porch while it disappeared around the corner. About an hour later, my doorbell nearly came off the wall. My neighbor was furious. "You stole my car." "No," I replied. "A towing company moved a vehicle that was illegally parked on private property. He demanded I pay the towing fee." I refused. The next morning, he reported me to the Homeowners Association. At the monthly meeting, he claimed I was targeting him over a harmless misunderstanding. The HOA president asked one question. "Did you have permission to park there?" Silence. Then they asked if he'd seen the warning sign. He admitted he had. "So you knowingly ignored it?" Another silence. The complaint was dismissed in less than 5 minutes. I thought that was the end of it. It wasn't. A month later, I came home to find construction cones blocking my driveway. He'd placed them there because he was having guests over. Instead of arguing, I took photos, moved the cones onto the public sidewalk, parked my car, and emailed the pictures to the HOA, along with timestamps from my security camera. That meeting went even worse for him. He was fined for repeatedly interfering with another homeowner's property and warned that future complaints could result in legal action. The funniest part? He never parked in my driveway again. About 6 months later, he sold his house. Before moving out, he walked over and said, "You could have just talked to me." I looked at him and smiled. I did. 5 times. Sometimes people don't respect polite words. They only respect consequences.